tag team, so if I get in a bad spot, I'll just reach over and she'll tag me, she'll jump up here, and she'll take off.
That's what I told him anyway.
Right. But they say every good speaker starts off with a joke, so, being at Cleveland Utilities, our human resource lady, Jan, has a lot of interesting stories. We had an ad in the paper one day for a job at Cleveland Utilities, and so she set up a bunch of interviews with all these different people. And so she's interviewing people all day long. And finally, this gentleman come in for his interview, at whatever time slot it was, let's say 10 o'clock, come in for his interview. And he sits down, and she's interviewing him, and she says, what makes you think you're qualified for this job? And he said, I'm probably overqualified for this job. She says, you are? He said, oh yeah, I'm very smart, so I have a very high IQ, and I'm probably overqualified for this job. She said, what do you mean? He said, well, like I name all the capitals of 50 states. Jan said, man, that's pretty good, because I can't do that. She said, yeah, so I can name them all. You just give me a state, and I'll name you the capital. She thought for a minute. She said, okay. She says, Kansas. He said, K. The capital. Okay. Oh, that's pretty good. But anyway, I guess you had to be in there. But he thought he was real smart and thought he could really do the job. Okay. All right, to start off with today, I'm going to go over the basics of understanding the utility bill before you can do anything about energy efficiency, before you can do anything about saving energy on a utility bill. First of all, you've got to understand the basics. What makes a utility bill a utility bill? What makes it up? What makes it change? What makes it work? And unless you know these things, you will never truly understand a utility bill. You can do all you want to, but until you understand the very, very basics of a utility bill, you'll never understand anything about a utility bill. So to do that today, I'm going to start off with an illustration. And I like illustrations because a lot of times illustrations really help you understand better than just me talking. I like automobiles. That's one of my hobbies, is I like automobiles. And so I have three distinct automobiles. I have a 2001 Astro van. And you know what those Astro vans are if you've ever had one or if you've ever ridden in one. What they are a box that goes down the street. And mine holds up to 7 passengers. And it's all made out of steel, and it's basically a box going down the street. Love my Astro van. Matter of fact, one of my favorite cars to drive is my Astro van. I just love the way they drive. Now, another car I have is a 1987 Pontiac Fiero. Now, when I say 87 Pontiac Fiero, how many knows what that is? All right, there you go. It's a plastic car made out of plastic. Probably one of the only original plastic cars ever made and manufactured in America. It's plastic, it's 2-seater, it seats 2 people.
And it was going to put all the other cars out of business.
Right. And it was meant to be a commuter car. It was built to be a commuter car to save people in America. We was going through an energy crunch in the middle 80s, and GM said, no, we got to make something to help people with this energy crunch. So they did. They made this little plastic car, a little 2-seater car. This is going to be the thing of the future. Now, the third car I have is a 1961. As you can see, we're going backwards here. It's a 1961 Chevy wagon. Now, my Chevy wagon is probably longer than any of these 2 cars put together almost. It's a huge car, and it's long. It's made out of steel. Matter of fact, I bet the 2 bumpers, front rear bumper, probably raise as much as this whole car right here does. But, huge car, and I love this little old Chevy wagon. It's 4-door, and it's green and white, and it's my little 61 Chevy wagon. It's to remind me, I guess, of my childhood. All right. Now, so all these 3 vehicles are extremely different. They're different in size, they're different in the way they're made up, they're made different in which they are built. Like this one has a V6 engine, this one has a V6 engine, which makes them pretty close to the same. Then this one has what they call back in the old days, the big block 348 engine. Hot rod car, highway car. Back then it was a highway car. Yeah, you get on the road, man, it cruise. All right, now, and putting all these three vehicles on the same playing field. Let's put them all on the same playing field so where there's no advantages to one or the other. Put them all on the same playing field. I got a friend of mine that lives in Nashville, and I go visit my friend once a month over in Nashville. Now, when I go to Nashville, I know ahead of time if I drive either one of these vehicles, one vehicle is going to get me 22 miles to the gallon. One vehicle is going to get me 20 miles to the gallon. And one car is going to get me 17 miles to the gallon. Now, which vehicle is going to get me 22 miles per gallon? Which one? She says the Pontiac, which we'll call it B, and we'll call this one C, and call this one A. How many thinks it's the Pontiac? 3 people out of 4. Believe it or not, it's the Astro van. Wait a minute, this car's plastic. Wait a minute, this car is half the size of this one. And look at this, this is a box. I mean, when the wind hits it, it's like bam. Why is this car only getting 20 miles per gallon when this one's getting 22?
Fuel injection, electronic ignition.
The technology that went into building this van was so much more advanced than this one. It had 24 years of advanced technology that went into building this van that allowed it to get 22 miles per gallon versus this one, which is 20 miles per gallon. Now, when I first bought my station wagon, I was getting around 10 to 12 miles per gallon. And I had a decision to make. Do I keep my station wagon that gets 10 to 12 miles per gallon, so I love my station wagon, or do I sell it? Well, I don't want to sell it. I don't like getting 10 to 12 miles per gallon. There's John Profit. So what do? I'm going to update my wagon with modern technology to get better gas mileage. So that's what I did. I took this old wagon, which at that time had a two-speed automatic transmission. I changed it over to a 5-speed transmission and got about 18 miles per gallon. Just by updating the transmission, this car got 18 miles per gallon. But I had something to happen, which now it only gets 17. About 5 years ago, I had the rear gearing in the axle to go bad, and I had to have the rear gearing in the axle changed out. At that time, it had a 308 gear in the rear end, and I had to change it out. And the only thing that I found was available was a 338 gear. So it was a lower gear, which wasn't much as a highway gear, and that lowered my gas mileage back down to 17. So still at 17, I had to ask myself the question, am I willing to live with 17 miles per gallon, or do I want to sell it and get something more efficient? I could say the same thing with this van. Am I happy with 22 miles per gallon, or do I want to sell it and get me something more efficient? Because believe me, I can sell my van and I can go buy a brand new car with 2012 technology and get 35, 40 miles per gallon if that's what I want to do. But if I don't do that, then I stick with what I've got. And right now I'm happy with all 3 of my vehicles because they each just give me a different driving experience. They offer me something different, and I like all of them, so I'm going to keep all 3 of them. And none of them's for sale. All right? So now, and then understanding that, there is 3 things, and we discussed one of them already, basically, but there's 3 things that make up that miles per gallon. Like I said, this is 22 miles per gallon, this is 20, and this is 17. Now, the 3 things that make up my miles per gallon, what's one of the major things that make up my miles per gallon? When you first get in, what's the thing that you've got to do in order to get to go down the road?
Turn it on.
You got to turn it on, then what you got to do? In order for it to go down the road, what you got to do? You just go down the road and stop.
Set the brake on.
You got to give it gas. You've got to give it gas. So at 0 miles per hour, which is idle, it's using a certain amount of gas. Now, as I start giving it gas, of course, it starts moving, and how fast I get away from 0 determines how much gas it takes. The farther I get away from 0, the more it's going to take in gas. The closer I stay to 0, the less it's going to stay in gas. So one of the big things here that determines how many miles I get per gallon is the speed I drive. I can control my speed. I control how fast I go, And so speed is a big thing. Not only how fast I go, but it's how constant I drive that speed. Like for instance, this last weekend, I went and visited my buddy Joe over in Asheville. Like I said, they go do that once a month. My van gets 22 miles to gallon. When we were coming back from Evansville, Indiana, we did their car show. We were coming back, we were going into the interstate, and I said, boom, my cruise control went out on my van. I didn't know why, but it just stopped working. So now, no longer am I keeping a constant speed. Now I'm doing it manually. I'm manually giving it gas to go up a hill and go down a hill, and I'm doing all this stuff manually. So when I get home, I didn't get 22 miles to gallon. I got 19 because I was messing with the gas. I wasn't letting it do its own thing. I was constantly fooling with the gas. You know where I'm going. Okay? So that fluctuates my bill. The speed in which I'm going, the way I fool with my gas pedal has to weigh that messes with my gas. So that's the number one thing that messes with its speed. The second thing we've talked about that messes with our miles per gallon is the technology. Technology, depending on when something's built, determines what kind of gas mileage I'm going to build. Like what I said, when I first got this wagon, I was getting 10 to 12 miles per gallon because it had 1961 technology. And back in 1961, when gas was 18, 17 cents a gallon, who cared what the kind of gas miles got? All they wanted was a comfortable ride, be able to in the interstate at 70 miles an hour and feel good about it. You know, that's all they cared about. So I could tell myself I can live with my wagon the way it is, or I can invest and install new technology in my old car and make it better and more efficient. Now I'm getting 17 miles to gallon, where before I was getting 10, 12, just by changing out the transmission. So technology plays a big role in that as well. The third thing that plays a big role in my miles per gallon is the terrain. Terrain. That's hills and flat places and all this kind of stuff. Now this I can control. This I can control. This I really can't control unless I said I want to sell my car. Like if I don't like what I'm doing here, I can sell my car and get another one that does differently. And I'll get to that just for a minute. Now, let's take all of this I've said so far and let's compare this to a house. Let's compare this to a house. I get phone calls every day. My parents live in a 2,500 square foot house. I live in a 1,000 square foot apartment. How come my bill is higher than my parents' bill? And they live in a 2,500 square foot house, and I live in a 1,000 square foot apartment. Most of the time it's the technology. Because people build houses to what? Live in, right? People build apartments to what? Rent. They know they're going to be living in this house, and they put in that best insulation, they put in the best this, they built it this way, they put in the highest efficient energy, heating and air system they can do. They do all this stuff in this big, huge, fancy home. They use all the latest technology, and then comes to the apartment like, I'm not going to be living there. I'm just renting this place. Oh, you'll give me a deal on these 5 units because they're 5 years old, and yeah, that's fine. Now, give me the deal. I'll put them in here. Let's go. So just because my apartment is 1,000 square foot, I can't compare it to this 2,500 square foot house just on size alone. That's just like, I can see you argue all day, this car's plastic. It's two-seater. Why am I only getting 20? I should be getting 40 miles to gallon compared to this box fan that's going down the street, taking up all this space and blocking wind and blah, blah, blah. Why is it, I could argue that fact all day, but because of the technology, that's the best that little car's going to do because of when it was built. And this is the best this car's going to do because it was built in 2001. And that's just like a house. You can only do so much. So, the technology's there. The next thing is the terrain. The thing that makes up the terrain is your climate. We can't control our climate. It's going to get cold in the wintertime. It's going to get hot in the summertime. So climate, I can change it if I want to move. If I say I'm tired of living these cold winters in Cleveland, I'm tired of it getting down to 30 degrees and my heat pump running 24 hours a day and it don't stop and my bills are $100, blah, blah, blah. I don't like that. So I can choose to move to southern Alabama. I can choose to move to Florida. I can choose to move to Louisiana. I can move to all these places where it's warmer than what it is. So I can control this to a certain extent, but this is a dramatic change right here. So the speed I can control because that's my thermostat in my house. I can control my thermostat. And the thing about your thermostat is just like my cruise control in my van. You want to take your thermostat on one setting and leave it alone. Because if you start doing this every day with your thermostat, you're using more energy. The constant you keep that thermostat, like if I set I tell people all the time, I change my thermostat twice a year. I change it once in the winter and once in the summer. Because I have two settings I set my thermostat on. That's once in the winter, once in the summer. And I don't touch it. Don't never touch it. But if you start touching your thermostat, it's just like you manually driving your car. It's going to take more gas because you're manually driving it instead of having it on cruise control. It takes more gas. Technology, once again, this is me like putting my transmission in my wagon. It's like me putting a brand new heat pump in my home. See, my wagon had an old transmission, which was made back in 1961, which had very low efficiency. But I chose to put in a brand new heat pump, let's say, in my car, and I almost, 150% of what I was getting in my gas mileage, I improved it that much just by replacing my heat pump with that alone. So that's the thing about a house, you can do that as well. And of course, like we said, the terrain, you really can't do much about there. But in understanding this, this will really help you understand your utility bill and really help you understand why changing the technology of your home, understanding your thermostat and how your thermostat affects your bill, that will really come into play. If you go to that first screen there, and I'm going to pass this down here. Thank you. Now this right here is actual temperatures for the city of Cleveland. These are actual temperatures for the city of Cleveland. And what I want to discuss to you about is we talked about the speed. We said anything above 0 in a car is going to take more gas. Anything you go above 0 is going to take more gas. And so the greater the difference from whatever your speed is up here to 0, whatever the difference is, as it gets farther apart, it takes more gas. Like if I'm going 80 miles an hour, it takes more gas than it is if I'm just going 50. All right, so we're going to show this here in real life here in just a minute. But now the thing about this as well on your speed, if I'm going to run in any 3 of my automobiles, no matter which one they are, if I'm going down in any 3 of my automobiles, once I take my foot off the gas, what's the vehicle start doing? Start slowing down. It starts slowing down. Now, the rate that it slows down is based upon the technology of that vehicle. I can take all 3 of my vehicles, like my van, I can let off my gas, and let's say my Fiero is right beside me and I let off the gas in it. My Fiero will lose speed less than my van does because my Fiero is more aerodynamic. Means it's able to cut through the wind better. So it's still slowing down, but it's not slowing down at the rate that my van is because the technology put in the aerodynamics of my Fiero. See, it's hard to get my van to set as low and low profile as no car does. But they all, any 3 of them, it's all going to start losing gas once I let off the gas pedal. And that's just like in your home. Once your house heats up and your unit cooks off, or once your house cools down and the unit kicks off, immediately it starts losing whatever it did at that particular moment. Like let's just say in the summertime, let's say you cool your house to 70 degrees. You may cool your house lower than that, or you may keep it a little bit warmer than that, but let's say you cool your house to 70 degrees. This chart I gave you right here for the summer months, the blue represents what the temperature normally is for that time of the year. The dark blue represents what the normal temperature in Cleveland is for that month of the year. The red represents what it is this year. The light blue represents what it was last year, and then the yellow represents what it was 2 years ago. So this compares your months of temperatures outside. Like for instance, this year you can see May was pretty warm. It was above what the normal average is for that month. You see the normal average is right around almost 69 degrees. Well, it got almost to 71 here in May of this year. So if you're cooling your house to 70 degrees this year, and it's 71 degrees outside, there's only a 1 degree difference, so your air conditioner does not have to do so much. And let me go back and say this. Scientists got together, and John, you know more about this than I do, but scientists got together years ago and determined that 65 degrees is the level point of an outdoor temperature, which means if the weather outside falls below 65 degrees, you're going to have something to keep warm in your house to stay warm. Or if the temperature rises above 65 degrees, you're going to have something in your house to cool you down, or you won't be comfortable. So 65 degrees is the 0 point compared to a car idling. Your house can idle at 65 degrees outside, but when it starts getting below that or below that, it stops idling and needs something else to compensate for that. So here we have a 1 degree difference from what you're trying to maintain on the inside versus what is on the outside. So here, you didn't see your bill change any. You come along in June now, you're still cooling your house to 70 degrees, but look what happened to the outdoor temperature. The outdoor temperature raised to 75 degrees. Now you have a 5 degree difference, and you saw your bill increase at your house. You're thinking, I didn't do anything different. I didn't change anything. Nobody's added in my family. I haven't changed anything. I haven't added on another room. Why in the world is my bill increasing? It's because now you're going up a hill, or you're getting more gas to increase your speed, and that's why your bill increased. Come along in July, you see the average temperature now jumps to 80, about 80 and a half. We'll just use 80. We'll use the lower part. It's still 70 you're trying to maintain on the inside of your house. So now you have a 10 degree difference, and you saw your bill jump again. You're like, man, this is crazy. The Cleveland utilities are robbing me. They're cheating me on my bill. This can't be right. My bill's increased again, and I'm not doing anything different. I am mad at the hill, and I'm calling somebody today, and I'm telling them I'm upset because my bill keeps increasing and I'm doing nothing different. But once again, the farther you get away from 0, the farther you get away from what you're trying to maintain on the inside, as the difference gets greater, it takes more for that system to operate. All right, let's go to the next screen there. And that's summer. Let's look at winter. Let's look at winter. Now, these are actual temperatures. This is part of my job. These are actual temperatures right here. And so it's nothing I've just pulled out of my hat. These are actual temperatures for Cleveland. All right. This is the winter months of the season. As you see here in this chart, the red represents what the average normally is for that month. The dark blue is what the average was for this past winter. The yellow is what it was last year, and the green is what it was 2 years ago. So starting off in October, let's go here in October. And I love this illustration because this really brings home what I'm talking about here. Let's say you heat your house to 70 degrees. And you may keep it warmer than that, or you may keep it a little cooler than that, but we'll just use it, for example, 70 degrees. Back in October, the average temperature outside, as you will see there, was right at 57 degrees. So you have a 13 degree difference you're fighting against in order to keep your house warm back in the month of October. We come along in November, you're still doing the same thing. You're heating your house to 70 degrees. You've not changed anything. You haven't had any children. You haven't added on to the house. Now the temperature drops down to 50 degrees. Now we have a 20 degree difference, and you see your bill jump again. You're like, it's winter time, my bill's going to jump a little bit because, yeah, we are using some heat, no big deal, blah, blah, blah. So you come along in December, now the temperature drops to 45 degrees. You're still cooling your house to 70 degrees. Now you got a 25 degree difference, and you see your bill jump again. You're going, oh man, this is crazy. This is crazy. I can't afford these high electric bills. There's just no way I can afford these high electric bills. So I'm going to lower my thermostat to 68, and boy, my bill's going to drop. I'm going to lower my thermostat to 68 degrees, so boy, my bill's going to drop. So look what happens in January. The outdoor temperature drops to 43 degrees. Now, you have a 25 degree difference again. You get your bill, same as it was last month. It can't be. I lowered my thermostat. I dropped my temperature 2 degrees from last month, and my bill is just as high as this month as it was last month. There's no possible way. They're cheating me at Cleveland Utilities. They're crooks. I'm going to sue them and take them to court. But what you don't realize, once again, the temperature dropped the same amount that it did here, so your bill was the same, because you still have the same difference. In order to have kept this the same, you would have had to have dropped your thermostat down to 66 degrees to see a difference, or 67. and it'd been very minimal because that 1 mile is not going to make that much difference, but you would have seen a little bit difference. But because you only dropped it 2 degrees, you didn't see any difference at all in the bill. Then you come along in February, of course, the outdoor temperature jumps then back up to 47 degrees. And it's, you're still doing the 68, let's say, on the inside to try to conserve. So now you're looking at a 21 degree difference. And come along in March, and boy, March really jumps up there. I mean, this year March jumped up to 60 degrees. So here it's 60, and you're still doing the 68 to conserve. Here's your 8 degrees, your bill. So if you looked at it on the graph, it'd be like October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. That's where it'd be on the graph. And the same thing would be for the summer months. Same kind of graph. You'd see it's do this, peak, and come back down the other side. Now, this is the question I love to get asked at Clean Utilities, and I get this asked all the time, especially in the wintertime. I get this question to ask, and I love to answer it because it has a great answer. People call me in the summertime. They'll get their August bill, which August and September, as you notice on the other chart, I mean, July and August is always your 2 hottest months of the summer. July, I always get this call. I get a call from somebody saying, listen, my air conditioner runs 24 hours a day in the summertime. And my bills are, in the wintertime are just as much as my air conditioning is in the wintertime. Why is my winter bills higher than my summer bills? Well, this is the reason. This is why your winter bills are higher than your summer bills. In Cleveland, the most extreme it got this summer was, I believe, 106. I was in Chattanooga one night, and I thought, wait, it's hot down here. So I called the temperature, and they told me it's 106 degrees outside. Now, that's extreme. It hardly ever gets above 100 right here, but just for the sake of argument, I'm going to give you what I called personally in and caught one day this summer, 106 degrees outside. And in my lifetime, I've never seen it get 106. Let's say you're cooling your house to 70. That right there is a 36 degree difference that you're fighting with during an extreme day of 106 degrees outside. In the wintertime, you're heating your house to 70 degrees. It seemed like last winter it got down to maybe like 17 one day. It seemed like I was sitting in my home one day and I heard them say the winter, it's 17 degrees outside. So here's a 17 degrees. So now we've got a 53 degree difference versus the 36 here. And that's why it takes almost twice as much to heat this air conditioning, because you got a greater hill. I always like to refer to it as a hill. It's like if here's where you're driving on level ground, you agree with me, as long as I'm going on level ground in this car, and I'm going 50 miles an hour, it's going to take a certain amount of gas to go 50 miles an hour on level ground. But now if I start going up a hill, and I don't add any passengers, I don't change anything about the car, it's going to take more gas because I'm going uphill, right? To maintain that 50 miles an hour. Well, it's just like this. When I start getting this greater difference, I'm no longer on the level ground anymore, I'm now going uphill, and the difference of that hill makes up the difference of energy that's being used. So that's what makes it that there, is the greater the difference, makes my bill increase or decrease. So, but like I said, until you understand the basics of an electric bill, you'll never learn anything about anything else. 2 things that you can control is your speed, which is your thermostat, and the second thing you can control is your technology of your home. Now there comes a point where you can do everything you can to your home, and I tell people this all the time. They'll call me up and they'll say, man, I did this, and 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 there's nothing else I can do, and my bill's still $200. I said, well, there comes a point where you reach the point where that's the best I can do. And I have to make the decision, am I going to live with this $200 electric bill, or am I going to sell it and move to a newer home? I mean, it's just the basics. I mean, it's just cutting it dry. There comes a point where you can do everything you know to do. You can place your heat pump, put in brand new windows, insulate the attic, do everything. It's like another thing. If your house was built before 1970, your house built before 1970, 90% of the time it's not going to have wall insulation. So what are you doing when winter comes along? You're heating your neighborhood. You're heating your neighborhood because you have no wall insulation. And that's where a house was built before 1970. My mother's house was built in 1964, no wall insulation. And I told my mother for years, because I lived there, because I've been in Cleveland 31 years, and that's how I started, was in this business. I said, Mama, I said, we can insulate the attic. I said, we can insulate the floor. I said, we can do all this stuff to make your house more efficient. But I said, if you have your walls being insulated, it's still going to be skyrocketed because you have no wall insulation. And she knew that because I was honest with her. I told her, I said, we can do all these other things that's going to save, but I said, you'll always be heating your neighborhood because you have no wall insulation. And she knew that. So, but anyway, that's enough of my dog and pony show. I'm going to turn over to Patty and let her talk for a few minutes. Anything I've said so far, anybody has any questions on or like me to Yeah.
Just repeat statement that you made. They make programmable thermostats. But I'm hearing you say that if you just set your thermostat on the temperature leaving, it's more efficient than.
Well, the thing about programmable, they do it in a very slow amount of time. I can programmable thermostat, John, you can help me. It is, if I don't say it wrong. What it does is like if you have it to heat your house to 70 degrees at 7 o'clock, we'll start warming up at 5. So it's a slow, gradual pull up to 70 degrees. So your emergency backup heat don't come on. All this stuff doesn't happen because it's set to do that over so or if I just go over and I turn it on from, say if I got it down to 50 at night when I sleep and I turn it up to 70 and get ready to go to work. If I just go over and hit that thermostat and turn on 70, the first thing's going to happen is the heat's going to come on. It's going to flood it with speed high. Or if I have a programmable thermostat that doesn't gradually over a period of time, it doesn't come on and it's cheap, right?
Make a great example of Patty asked me to go out to a local church. They had 2 large units. They had a programmable thermostat on each unit, but it was not. It was just a programmable thermostat that said, okay, at a certain time we want the temperature this way. Each of those units had 40,000 watt backup heat. Big heaters. When it was time for it to come on, they kept it cool during the week. When it was time for it to come on, they warm up the building. Those heaters came on in mass, and they set a demand charge. They was a lot of energy. We talked about going to an adaptive recovery thermostat, which is more what you're talking about, so that it knew, don't bring those heaters on. Let's turn this unit on 2 hours or 3 hours before the church service. And that way, we use the heat pump, we use the refrigeration process versus using those strip heaters that are very expensive. So in that case, no occupancy during the week, occupancy on Sunday. They were doing great, but then all of a sudden, all that savings they had during the week, they lost it in the course of a couple of hours.
Right. Right. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah, building code actually says that if your heat pump is capable of meeting the demand, you can't allow restricted heaters to come on. That's what we do in 2006. That's it. But a lot of mechanical contractors will go out there and wire their emergency strip up so that it does come on, just so the homeowner is real good, confident, and puts up on there.
Those are people that call Dave, saying that.
Yeah. Because for those of you who don't know, and probably all of you here know, a heat pump will put out about 90, 95 degree air. Well, your body temperature is 98, so when you go over and stand on top of that grill, you think, man, this is cold air. My heat pump's not working. I need to call my digging. No, your heat pump's working fine. It's just the air coming out of those vents are colder than your body temperature, so you think your unit's not working. It's working fine. So what will happen is people go over and fit their thermostat on so they can feel that heat. That's emergency heat coming on, and they're paying like 2 or 3 times for that emergency heat just so they can feel it being warm. Oh, it's warm now. But they don't realize that that meter pressure's doing this. Paying us more money because you've done that. So that's what I'm saying, and let's just do a programmable thermostat. It's costly every time you do that manually. It's costing that thing to keep you equal. Okay. I love trivia, and that's another reason I had this last little sheet here I gave you. This is the average temperatures for the winter seasons going back to 1981 when I started working at Cleveland Utilities. I just love this kind of information, so I've kept up with it through all the years. And what I find interesting is what's the one thing people equate with the winter being cold? They sit on the ground and they think, man, it's been a cold winter. Snow. You think, well, if we got a lot of snow, we had a cold winter. That's not the case. Because look, here's all the temperatures, and what I did, I showed you the average temperature for that winter season being October through April. I found out what the average was for that year and built this chart. What year did we have the 8-day blizzard or 10-day blizzard that was on the ground? Remember, it was March of 93, right? So if you look at the winter, and you look at the winter for 92, 93, that's the one you want to go to, the winter of 92, 93. Look how warm it was compared to so many other winters through there. And then that's a 10-day blizzard. I mean, everybody was stopped, and we couldn't move, and couldn't get around. That's a really warm summer compared to all the other, winter compared to all the other winters combined there. And if you look real close at what I thought was interesting, Patty Airport said, look how warm, look how cold, look how cold it was in the winter of 2009, 2010. Right on. That's thank you very much. Yes.
Water heaters, what percentage of the bill is going without? And are the tankless any more efficient?
Okay, water heater is your second largest user of electricity in your household. Okay? The thing about tankless water heaters is, it takes such a great amount of heat to heat that instantly, that it's cheaper just to maintain the water heater with the amount of heat it takes just to maintain it. Like let's say it takes a 5 kW heater just to maintain your water heater. It's going to have a 20 kW heater that's tankless just to heat the water instantly.
Even though it's only heating while you're
Right.
using it, it's still.
It equals about the same. They did some study, TVA did some studies several years ago, and it equaled out to be about the same. It really wasn't no significant savings, because like I said, because there's such a great amount of heat that's having to come on to heat that water instantly, that it all equals out about the same, and it's all set up.
And the other cost of that instantaneous water.
Yeah.
is quite a lot.
Probably higher than TVs. So, I mean, they work.
What about the geothermal, the new ones that are coming out?
Geothermals are good, but you just got the upfront cost.
Yeah, they're $1,500.
But there's some water heaters out there that you can buy for maybe like 5 or 6 that are just super energy efficient. What's the name of that Doug always pushes?
The green?
Miracle.
Marathon water heaters. I don't think you can get them locally. They tried to get them locally, but I don't think you can get them locally, can you?
Used to get them at Builder's Supply,
Squatchy Valley.
Sequatchie Valley. I don't think they do it. Builder's Supply used to order them
And where are they located?
out on 11. What's it? Is it
Who has those kind?
like between Charleston and Cleveland out there? What's that? Is that Builder's Supply? Builder's Depot.
Okay. That Marathon water heaters, that's one of the best ones as far as energy efficient comes. They're just made super insulated, and they're real cheap to operate. They've got like a lifetime warranty, I think, and it's just unreal. But they are a little more expensive, and that's the reason local shops, when you don't carry them, because they can sell those $200 and $300 all day long, and versus one that's going to cost you 6 or 7. So they just don't stop. So they are good water heaters.
The newer water heaters are 93, 94, 95% efficient.
Yeah, they're pretty efficient. Yeah.
Well, John, what makes them more efficient than the old heating element?
Because they use less electricity.
You know, why didn't I think of that?
Bob and I are buddies way back.
Is that why you got fired?
They actually put better insulation. The old ones had fiberglass
It's not the
insulation.
element itself.
The new ones have foam insulation.
Yeah.
They all have 45 degrees Fahrenheit. But they have better insulation.
Better
And just
insulation.
at the bottom, the old ones didn't have any insulation at the bottom. And you sit on a concrete floor. It's
It's a 4-inch hole.
Yeah. Okay, Patty, I'll let you.
Okay. I need your marker. I'm going to use
Yeah.
that.
Oh, great. Glad to see you.
Well, hey, on your car, what if you put a new 350 in there, that 340X, probably the Prelude,
Well, see, what I could do is I could put that new Chevrolet, it's a Z1 engine. It's
Yeah.
fuel injected and all that, and that little station wagon, I could jump the gas mileage probably to 22, 23.
I bet it'd go more than that.
It probably would. But I like the nostalgia of having the old engine when you raise the hood and you see the old engine. So, but it just goes to show you that new technology can work in an old system and bring it up even higher than what it is. Just like putting a heat pump in an old house. If I got a house built in 1948 that has a gas furnace that's 35 years old, and I tear it out and put a brand new heat pump in, I'm going to say, matter of fact, my buddy Joe, and I don't mean to take up your time, my buddy Joe lives in a house that's 100 years old.
Yeah.
Big, huge, 2-story, beautiful home. I mean, it's an old part of the town where he lives in, and he had this old unit that was just forever old and had no attic insulation. And I kept telling him for years, I said, man, you need to insulate your attic, you need to put your heat pump in, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, I just don't have the money, don't have the money. Well, finally, he broke down and put a brand new heat pump in. It's dual fuel, gas backup, heat pump. Insulated his attic with cellulose. His bill's now like $100 a month, and he's saving like $2,000 a year. And he's like, man, I wish I listened to you before, But so I mean, it's worked with him, just what he did. Of course, now he went from zero attic insulation to R30, 38, and then he went to this heat pump, and I mean, he's just saving tremendously. It's just unreal. And he was having $500 and $600 electric bills every month. So anyway.
Okay. I'm going to back up just a little bit and talk about our industry as a whole. And David talked a lot about like a nice little, it's kind of a skewed bell curve. That's my artwork. But our industry works on a bell curve. He showed you, April, May temperatures, and then you get to the hotter temperatures, and then you get down to the fall. Your bills reflect the same thing. We also have this same bell curve daily. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we get up and start, making our coffee, and the temperature heats up or cools down. We start using more energy, and then we all go home, and kind of the plants shut down and all that. We go to bed. So we've got bell curves not only seasonally but every day in the electric business. This chart right here shows the actual nationwide electrical demand last week, from August the 20th to August the 27th. If you see a nice bell curve, every day we have a bell curve that kind of squiggles around. Obviously, evidently, the temperature dropped to the end of this period. But everybody, there's a lot of people that say, why in the world would you promote energy efficiency in the electric business? Because that causes you to sell less of your product. That's true, very true. But in order to meet this demand in this particular week, we had to have capacity built to meet the demand, to make sure the lights stayed on, to make sure the people's heating and cooling units worked. We couldn't very well say, on Monday, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, oops, sorry, we don't have enough power plants built. We got to shut everybody down. Can't do that. So our industry is built, we have to build our industry to maintain this capacity, be able to deliver this electrical demand that people need. So, now, sorry, David, you didn't have this in your other one, did you? Okay. On a typical day or a typical season, we have built capacity up to this red line here. Look at all the gaps, all the times in our electrical demand life that we have all that unused capacity. Okay? It's not very efficient on our part, but we have to do that in order to maintain our lifestyle and the way people operate. So, if we reduce that demand just a hair, then we reduce the peaks that people need, and we are able to build less power plants, close some power plants. We talked about the coal power plants that they don't like anymore. And so we have, not only can we build less capacity, but we have less maintenance, less construction costs, that type of thing. So that's kind of the reason that we promote energy efficiency in our business. We don't want anybody to pay for energy that they really don't need. All right, this is your first quiz. The cheapest form of energy is, you think it's electric, solar, nuclear, coal-fired? Just guess. Who do you think's the cheapest? You say coal? Okay. Solar, okay. Okay, good guesses. All wrong, but good guesses. The cheapest form of energy is the energy that's never used, because we don't have to build that capacity. And energy efficiency improvements do not have to be expensive. We talk about heat pumps, we talk about some geothermal, we talk about some of this, large ideas, but they don't have to be expensive, and I'm here to tell you that. We talk about, a lot of people, on our system, we have about 60 solar systems and about 50 or so in the works. So by, in the next few months, we might have 100 solar systems on our system of various sizes. And I want so bad to tell those people, tighten up your house first. tighten up your house first. Don't just be green. You know, solar is very visible, very green. Wind's more visible because like the whole county can see it. But the less visible green things you can do are things to tighten up your house. Think of your house as a system. There's multiple factors that work together. David touched on this to make it a system. The highest energy user in your home is going to be your heating and air conditioning system. About 40% of your costs are your heating and cooling. David talked about 15 to 20% of your costs is water heating, 13% are appliances, 12% lighting, 4% electronics. And what do we hear about this phantom energy that we're using on our electronics? You know, go out and buy you an $80 smart, they've got a smart strip now that knows when you're not using your electronics and shuts itself off. Well, how many tubes of caulk would $80 buy? A lot. Yeah. The average residential bill, according to the government, and that's at 11 cents a kilowatt hour, and we're a little cheaper around here, is about $183 a month. So the small things that you do can make a big difference. And what I like to say is kill the fat rabbits first, and then work out your other stuff later. And thanks to John, he gave me these basic energy efficiency rules. He probably has a song that he sings to this.
Nobody was turning.
Air in equals air out, and we'll talk about each one of these just very briefly. Heat flows from warm to cold. When we say heat rises, not necessarily. Moisture flows from warm to cold and from more to less. And most things happen at the surfaces and connections, and most HVAC systems are leaky. We'll talk about, like I said, each one of these. I hope you can see this. This looks better on this than it does on mine. Air in equals air out. Okay? All these places that are in the orange arrows here are places that air can leak out of a house. And all the, I guess that's black arrows, are places that air can leak into a house. Anytime you have, there's a static pressure in a house. Nothing, let's say nothing changes. The house is sitting here. It's got, pressure is constant. Anything that happens, let's say the wind kicks up outside, something beyond your control, and you've got leaky windows or a leaky attic vent, leaky anything, that air is going to come into your house, and the same amount of air that you've paid to condition, you've paid Cleveland Utilities and VEC to condition inside your house, is going out somewhere else. So air in equals air out. One of the most enlightening things I have ever done, John did it for us, came to our house and did a blower door test. Now that's not a normal test that people do in the energy efficiency world as far as, walk through in-home energy evaluation, but he did a blower door test on our house. What happens, he puts this contraption up against, this balloon-like thing up against the front door and a great big fan, and he sucks the air blowing outside. And then we walk around the house with our hands, basically, and feel where all the air in equals air out. He's pulling that air out of the house, and we're feeling, around the outlets. The outlets. Who would have thought? The outlets. The fireplace, the windows, not so much. A few doors that weren't caulked. But the most telling thing is we went downstairs, and where our fireplace comes down the stairs, there was a non-sealed spot it was in the summertime, it was hot outside. There was a non-sealed spot on the top of that fireplace plate, and we went in that room, and it felt like somebody had a heater. Yeah, immediately, what is that? You know, some of the most obscure places. But this is a great illustration of air in equals air out. So you can get the blower doors test, and you know, for $200, somebody will come and do the blower.
Bob's actually had two at his house.
So it's very enlightening. I mean, I can't tell you how much air was coming through that vent. I mean, that outlet right there.
So what can you do to prevent that?
Pardon?
What can you do to prevent the air getting?
We'll talk about that. Okay, another place, air in equals air out. A lot of places in your attic. Who wants to go in the attic? It's hot in the summer, it's cold in the winter. You know, who wants to go up there? Well, you know, might be worth the trip. Might be worth the trip. And I'm going to get Tracy these handouts, and I'll email them to you, so they're kind of hard to read this way. This is a picture of your energy efficiency best friend. It's called a caulk gun. Somebody told me one time the best energy efficiency tool was a 70-year-old woman with a caulk gun. Just turn her loose, you know, and let her go. When people build houses, and you can probably attest to this, you know, plumbers, electricians, their goal is to get that house built, get those connections done, get those pipes in that house. So the holes that they cut in the house fit not only the pipe they're putting in, but their two hands that they're putting that pipe in with, okay? Which is great. I mean, it makes them, you know, build a nice house, but it's terrible for energy efficiency. This is another enlightening thing. Just go around, you know, in your basement or under your sink and see how big the hole is that those plumbing pipes come through. Doug Ross says, and Doug Ross will be here at the end of the month, if an ant can get in, air can get in. It's an ant. You know, those little pesky fire ants we have, they're teeny. But if an ant can get in, air can get in. It's been estimated that the average house has enough holes like this, plumbing, electrical holes in it, to the equivalent of leaving a window open all the time. Scary. And not only does air get in, but varmints get in too. I think John will attest to this. If you can find spider webs somewhere, there's air getting in that house. The spider is your best energy efficiency tool. Okay, here's the next picture is insulation. Attic in this illustration, attic insulation. The small one is foam insulation. A little expensive, on the expensive side, but the most energy efficient because it can fill up holes and gaps and better than the bad insulation. Think about a coffee cup. I'm going to bring that in this morning, but you pour 150-degree coffee into a styrofoam cup, and you can pick it up. So same difference. That foam insulation is going to seal it good. And this, again, this is bad insulation. I'll go ahead and say it now because he'll ask me. The cat, continuous and touching. Insulation has to be continuous and touching for it to be efficient. Again, who wants to go in the attic? Might be worth a trip. This is a picture of a crawl space, I guess, if you call that. I wanted to point out not only air leakage and energy efficiency is important, but you have to deal also with moisture. This picture has they've sealed, they've got a nice ground cover here. They've sealed the sides of the crawl space. Looks like they've got some bad insulation, up against the floor. They're not only keeping air from moving, they're keeping moisture from moving.
How thick do you need that styrofoam?
John,
Code says 2 inches.
thank
Right
you.
now.
I knew I brought it along for
2
something.
inches continuous is R13, which is R10, or R13, you got cavities.
But when even a half inch
It helps. We're trying to control 3 things: the movement of heat, the movement of air, and the movement of moisture. And 2 inches is the code because at R10, that's what you're stopping. Enough heat that it's cost effective to put in there.
Well,
4 inches is probably.
her coffee cup is only,
And it's different thicknesses in different areas. We're forward,
yeah.
so get further north, it's less, get further south, more it's.
I'm ignoring the color here, I didn't know.
Just like you did in class. Just
Well, I got your hot water heater. I
Okay,
say hot water heater, and it says, why do you need to heat hot water?
It's a water.
good
Heat
point.
the cold.
I'll give him that. So, again, this is a good job of sealing this off. This not only improves the moisture, the heat, the air quality also as well in the house. Moisture moves from warm to cold. Think about, if I had a glass of iced tea here, set it down, in a plastic cup or whatever, set it down in just very, very short period of time, what's going to form on the outside of that cup? Condensation, right? Same way with any system in your house. Anytime a hot or a warmer air hits colder air, it's going to create condensation. So you want to minimize that. Everything you can probably eliminate it, but you minimize that, prevent the condensation. What grows in condensation in a house? Mold. So that also, creates a barrier to mold growth as well. There's some examples of how moisture is in a house. Things that I don't really think of, like boiling water on a stove. You create moisture in a house. It's not just the moisture coming in from, leaky air conditioning system or your foundation. It's internally created moisture as well. Okay? Most things happen at the surface and the connections, and we'll talk a little bit about this in the next few slides. Where materials come together, make sure they're compatible with each other, and sealed, continuous, and touching. CAT, continuous and touching. Tight ductwork. One of the things David mentioned was the HVAC. People do come in and say, I had a customer that was complaining, had a new heat pump put in. He was complaining because it was cold air blowing out of there. We went out there to look at it, and his chair is sitting right over the vent. I said, sir, if you just move that chair over a little bit, you wouldn't feel that cold air. Illustration is, the air, the force of the air makes it feel cooler, even though it's warmer. If you blow on your hand hard, it feels cool. But if you slow that flow down and blow with a slow motion like that, it feels warm. So we have a lot of people in our system. We serve, I don't know if people realize it, we serve from the Kentucky line to the Georgia line. We have 17 counties. We have a lot of people in the Cumberland County area who moved here from the north, and they're used to gas heat. And trying to convince them that a heat pump is good is very difficult because they want to stand on that register and feel that warm heat. So we have a continual battle with that. Again, here's an illustration of floor insulation. He's putting it up with the, how is that?
Wire stays.
Yeah, bar stays. Continuous and touching. See, it's touching on the sides of the joist there. This is probably the most important, or the most important. The thing I want you to take away from this the most most HVAC systems are leaky. You have bought this $7, $8, $9, $10, $12, $15,000 heating unit. It's nice, shiny, sitting out there. You know, it's very efficient. It's running, you know, in the middle of the winter, it's cold, it's running, it's a little hard out. And you paid us for the electricity to run that unit. All's well in the world. And what happens if you have a hole in your duct system? You're paying to heat your attic. My present CEO has a house in Athens, and he noticed that one of his rooms was cold, you know, during the winter. And he said, I bet you anything, you know, something's happened with the ductwork. So he puts on his coveralls, you know, it's a little crawl space. He puts on his coveralls, you know, hat, gloves, everything. He crawls in that crawl space. He said it was just as warm and toasty. And there's a big fat cat sitting on top of his duct system, and it's doing this, you know. So even, you know, what is that, the plumber with leaky pipes, you know, even the energy efficiency people have trouble from one time to another. Estimates are that you can lose from 10 to 30% of your airflow just from holes, and not even holes, you know, gaps in your duct system. And I've also heard that 30% of the houses in the United States suffer from leaky ducts. 30%. 30% of the houses are losing 30% of their air. You know, wow, that's a great energy efficiency opportunity right there. Also, not just the ducts, but the mechanics of the unit itself. Make sure that's sealed up correctly. I know a lot of our contractors in this area are getting into duct sealing, and it's, as far as energy efficiency improvements go, it's extremely cost effective.
What's that stuff he's putting on that?
Mastic. Use mastic.
But where's the best place to purchase mastic?
Lowe's, Home Depot,
They got it now?
They got it now.
just a home improvement store. Duct tape is not for ducts. It might be for DUCKS ducts. It's not for DUCTS ducts. That's, maybe, you know, somebody needs to pass legislation to make them change the name of that stuff. You know, who wants to put, you know, I walk by now and they've got pink and camouflage and lime green, and who wants to put that on their ducts anyway? You know.
You know, it started in World War II as duct tape, DUCK, to seal up ammunition boxes. They could rip it off. And then after World War II, they started putting something in there and they said, oh, this could be DUCT tape.
Just take a strip of duct tape and lay it up in your attic or in your garage even, you know, as hot as the garage gets, and just leave it there for 6 months and look what it looks like. You know, after about a year, you can crumble it up and look like fairy dust. Okay, here is a conglomerate of energy efficiency tools for you that are extremely cost effective. We've got the, you know, and I'm not plugging great stuff foam, but we've got the can foam. What, $5 maybe a can? Use that for around your plumbing, electrical holes, all kinds of gaps and cracks and windows, doors. We've got the weather stripping. You know, that's a couple bucks a roll. You know, keep that air in, air out, away from your windows and doors. Caulk, $3 I guess, $3 a tube. And the 70-year-old lady will probably work for free. So get you that caulk and a 70-year-old lady and turn her loose. I do have a programmable thermostat on here, and we talked a little bit about that earlier. These thermostats, the best ones only raise the temperature a couple of degrees at a time. They're smart. You know, they know you're coming home at 5 o'clock, so they know, okay, at 3 o'clock I need to bump this up a couple of degrees at a time so that strip heat, that emergency heat doesn't come on.
Will all the programables do that, or do you have to
I
look?
don't think all of them will. They have to be smart.
You have to have smart on it?
Or it may say adaptively cut. It knows what the temperature is outside, once you went inside, it will come on out on the floor, 2 or 3. And it's smarter than we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little smarter than me.
It'll say smart on the thing.
Or intelligent, or adaptive recovery, or adaptive intelligent recovery. The bigger the word that's described, the more the thermostat is.
Probably more expensive it is. Also, down here at the bottom, it's kind of hard to see, but cover your attic access. Think about it. You insulated your attic really tightly, and then you cut this 3 by 5 foot hole in your attic. You know, it needs to be insulated as well. This balloon thingy here, that's an apparatus that seals up your chimney. Your chimney's open chimney, you need to seal that chimney up against air conditioning and heating. One of the most inefficient ways to heat a room is a fireplace, by the way. Most of it goes up the chimney. There's covers for your outlets. They're foam. They look like coffee cups, foam, styrofoam. You just take the outlet off, put it on here, and it limits the flow of air. Door sweeps. I need a couple of these at my house. More because I'm afraid varmints are going to come in than air leakage. But door sweeps on your doors. I mean, I've got gaps. Again, the plumber with leaky pipes up here. I've got gaps in my 2 outside doors like this. So I need to do something about that. Because if I'm not mistaken, a mouse or a snake can get in that hole too. Okay. These illustrations, many of them came from this book. Probably the best book I've seen. We used to give this with the energy evaluations. I think they're going to stop doing that. You know,
Talked to Les yesterday, they haven't set a date on when, so they're still giving those out,
okay.
so.
With the energy evaluations, if you get one of these books, it's step-by-step illustrated. That's what I like about it. I like a book I can look at the pictures, you know. Or it's less than $15 online, Amazon or someplace. So it's a great book. I hate to see them stop doing that. Okay, now talk just a little bit about rackets, deceptive claims. This is about the time of the year that you're very likely to get a postcard in the mail that looks like, that's very professionally done, and it invites you to a dinner at Logan's or someplace, and they're going to talk to you about lowering your fuel bill, your energy bill by 40%. Really? In order to cut your energy bill by 40%, with what I've calculated is you can turn off your HVAC, and that will lower your energy bill by 40%. There are, I probably shouldn't admit this, but one of our ladies in our office actually went to one of these last year, and it was very high pressure. They talked about a radiant barrier in the attic, which might or might not help depending on your situation. They also talked about a residential power factor correction device. Without being too technical, some of the commercial accounts, we require them to maintain a certain power factor so that they don't waste power, waste demand. Residential, we don't even measure power factor on residential accounts. Do you? No, I don't think any utility does. So to correct your power factor on a residential, it might correct it, but it does nothing for your bill. Nothing. The lady that went to this particular dinner, special pricing today only. If you leave tonight, we can't guarantee this price. She tried to get a quote. She told him how big her house was and we can't really quote it. If you can't get a quote per square foot, I'd walk away. New technology endorsed by your local power company. How many new technology items have you endorsed in the last 30 years? None? None? We typically rely on the experts at the Electric Power Research Institute, Oak Ridge, TVA, you know, we rely on Energy Star type of thing. So, you know, you know, a large part of my day is not consumed by endorsing products. How about yours? Okay, and I want to talk about, just briefly, about the in-home energy evaluation that's available both at Cleveland Utilities and VEC through TVA's program. John is one of our evaluators in that program. It provides just a walk-through energy assessment. Again, it's not a blower door, you know, drill down to the minutia. It's a walk-through. Typically, you find insulation, leaky ducts. What else, John?
Insulation, leaky ducts, holes that need to be caulked or sealed.
Weather stripping.
Weather stripping.
And a lot of things that aren't real expensive.
Right.
Maybe even homeowners can do.
Right. Relatively low cost, easy things to take care of. Give you the most bang for your buck. We also provide a qualified contractors list that's kind of been vetted by TVA and the people that have worked for us many times before. And after the work's done, you get a follow-up inspection and can qualify for a rebate on a portion of what you spent on those rebates. So each distributor's a little different, so I was afraid to get into too much detail, but
We're the same.
I think our programs are the same. If you're interested, let us know or call the power company, your local power company. So this is a great program. It's relatively expensive to operate for TVA, but I think they've committed on keeping this for a little while. This is, you know, probably one of the best programs they've done in a long, long time as far as I'm concerned. So. Okay, questions for either one of us?
So say question, Bob.
No, I'm supposed to say, if there are any questions, the gentleman in the orange shirt back there.
So basically what I'm hearing you say mostly is that most of the things you suggest people can do are fairly simple, inexpensive, just get out there and do them.
A little dirty, because you got to get under the sink in the attic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, after you've done these things, then think about the more expensive, you want it to be green with the solar, the other thing. I wonder how much air is pumping out of these houses with these solar panels on top. Yes.
How long typically after let's say you had a home evaluation and then you went back and did some of those things on your own, how long would you maybe realize a few cents or whatever, a little savings on your bills?
You know, assuming you do the thing and do it correctly, you know, the immediate thing you're going to notice is the comfort level. It's going to be less drafty. It's going to be less, it's just going to be more comfortable. You know, heat pump's coming on a little bit less or whatever. Now, the variable, like David talked about, the climate, you know, we can't control that it's 106 degrees, you know. So, probably year to year, I know a lady in her office had insulation. She said, I really couldn't compare it until the next year, and she started seeing her average bills over there. So, you know, you're immediately going to see comfort improvement, and then over time see improvement.
And Tracy, I'm kind of simple guy, so I'll start with the basic things that cost less, and then maybe move to windmills or solar panel. But most people actually 7 to 10 is what we look at. If you do the rebate, you're getting half of the money that you spend up to the top of the rebate. You spend $1,000, you get half of that. So that cuts you 7 to 10 years down to 3 to 5. And a 5-year payback is 20% return per year on the money. I was speaking to a Rotary Club in Loudon, and this lady asked me a question. She was a branch manager for a local bank. What was the return? I said 20% per year. I said, Miss Banker, would you give us 20% on our money we put in your bank? She said, we can do 2%. She came back and said, John, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Because she realized the value of doing that kind of return. A lot of these retired people do that because their investments are bringing nothing. They realize if they can put it in their house and get 20% return per year, they're doing it.
Nobody sees you go out and buy a pan and spray foam. And then they slap those solar panels on the roof.
Insulation's not sexy.
Yeah, that's right.
But it works.
Works. And some, through this IHE program, the Home Energy Evaluation Program, we see the bills come through, typical installation job is $1,000, a little over, get $500 back. How many meals is that eating out? In the whole scheme of things, it's very, very cost effective.
Now, you see that new construction, you try to get this done, all the houses can build.
Unfortunately, up until about a year ago, in the county, nobody was looking at repair leaks, mechanical leaks, duct leaks. And so there's a lot of houses out there that have still got to do a lot of work.
And so whose responsibility now is it to seal up those holes?
Well, the county commission in the last 2 years has passed the mechanical code in Grant County. We've started mechanical inspections, sealing up the air leaks. Still in the code, it doesn't require you to seal around crawl space, access door to attic. It's in the new 2009, 2012 code. Floor door test and that kind of stuff is in the 2012 code. So like I said, only good contractors or custom built home has some of these energy savings in them already.
And even the good contractors, you run into a problem, but you gotta cut a hole in the wall to get to, and you forget, to go back and seal that hole. So, in a very, high-end, well-built home, there could be a hole or two, area in, area out.
And they're not accustomed to thinking about this stuff. And that's why we like these education classes, just to help them. They're willing to do it, but they know they need to.
What about radon? Yes, I hear people say, seal up too tightly. That's,
I don't know, the Department of Environmental Conservation, they have some programs for radon testing and so forth. I know they've emphasized some of that. Janet, Connor, Hank Thompson, better ask that woman.
Vapor barrier. If you think about it, if a house is sealed up tight enough, how's radon getting in the first place?
But that's just, we are wrong about that, and there goes without, that's a good, what Patty says is exactly right. If you can't get radon in, the radon is part of the decomposition process. It's half-life, another half-life, most of them is short. So here they put down the vapor barrier, which is there to stop the moisture. So vapor it also stops radon, mold, keep the humidity level below the surface. I got a call from one of your contractors this morning, put a new duct system in the house, got a leaking duct, it's off duct. The humidity level in the house before that was 81%. And Bob, what's the mold? It's kind of a number I think we talked about. It's above a certain humidity level, mold growth, below that it does. You remember that? 50, 55%, is that what? This house was 80%, 81% before, after fixing the duct system, changing that to 50%. So the moisture level gone down, where it was bringing moisture from across, where it might be bringing radon.
So it was leaky,
It seals up the duct system.
John, it was sucking in the moisture and the leaky duct.
Yeah, it's with the return and fast supply. It was just taking outside air and bringing it in.
In this photo, they take the plastic to the outside of the phone. Is that the proper way or should it drop underneath?
Seen that those ways, it's probably addressing.
It just simply says it needs to be lapped and taped, sealed out. Either way, it's exceptional for that.
So if you went underneath, you want to tape it against the wall.
Or liquid mail, and then where the two pieces come together, you know,
Duct tape.
put some kind of seal on there.
Duct tape. Any other questions?
Interesting thought, I went to one of your customers this morning, talked to him, all these things you talked about, he had that, he had duct tape. He had places he had little walls between the inside and the attic, because it was a 4.5 house. You need to fix, hot upstairs. Believe it or not, some houses are hotter upstairs than they are downstairs. And Bob, why is that? Upstairs because you're closer to the sun, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not shaded, see, your lower floor is shaded from the upper part, see, that's.
That's it. Yeah, someone said one time because you're closer to the sun, and this other guy said, well, the mountains are closer to the sun, and they're not. But it's, he had problems with the air in there, duct work in the attic, he had leaks, his duct system, and in his house, the insulation, they can do it. And this fellow was a retired guy, he just didn't want to take care of all those things himself. So let's probably get some contractors involved here. But Bob did a lot of those things to his house himself. He insulated his own house. He fixed his duct work.
It's not rocket science, I mean, really, it's not, you know, if I can get up there and throw that between joists, anyway.
You didn't mention the biggest leak in your house, man. You didn't mention your garden center. And in the master bedroom, you know, the whole tub was just almost doing this.
Yeah, but where's that air coming from? It was like you look back there and all that was back there was just the backer board on, you know, the outside and side, I mean, inside and side. That's it.
When the plumbing came up, nice big hole there. And what was the dustiest room in your house?
The bathroom, for sure. And the light bulb came on at that point, ooh, that dust is coming from somewhere. All right.
Let's thank
Well,
Patty and David.
we're not through yet.
Oh, you're not, sorry.
I went through, we're just getting started.
Sorry.
Unless you want to run us off, we're going to run us off.
Sorry, he did tell me he wanted it.
Yeah, I want to do a few more things. I always like the story on the fireplace, which makes a real good illustration. 'Cause I get a lot of calls, you can tell by my speech earlier, I get a lot of high bill complaints, and that's where I hear a lot of this stuff with that, but, I get a lot of calls in the wintertime, people say, man, I understand my bill, I've got a $200 electric bill, and I use my fireplace. Yeah, my bill's high in the wintertime. Why is a person's bill high when they use a fireplace? Well, it's easy, very easy to think about it. What makes a fire burn? Oxygen. So it's got to pull that oxygen from somewhere, right? Where's it pulling it from? It's pulling it from your house up the chimney. When it's pulling the air out of your house up the chimney, it's pulling your air out, your heat out, it's pulling everything out of your house up to the chimney. So the heat that you have on the back of the house is heating the back part of the house because your fireplace is up front. That's why your bill is high. So, in the wintertime, if you got a fireplace, be sure you got the closed front doors with the little vents at the bottom that just let the heat in and doesn't suck the air out. And usually that way they got the air vents in the back that pulls the air in from the outside, keep the fireplace burning. So, that's just a little something.
And do they have a pre-made retro system if you have an older fireplace to get outside air on?
I'm not sure. I'm sure you can talk to somebody who does and find out. But I just want to talk here just for a minute. If you want to, do all the things she said to do, insulate and seal all your cracks, and do all this stuff, do everything that you can do. Then if you're still concerned about your electric bill, the best thing you can do is learn to read your meter on a daily basis. This is one thing I stress to everybody who I talk to who calls it, learn to read your electric meter every day. Take 2 minutes out of your day. Take 2 minutes out of your day and learn to read your electric meter. Let me give you a case in point. It's about 4 years ago, I was sitting in my office and Tom Wheeler called. You know Tom Wheeler is our general manager at Leakage Utilities. He said, I've got a customer on the phone, I need you to help. I said, what it is? I said, what's the story? He said, well, said, she claims she takes an electric reading every day, and she claims she has a chart showing her electric reading, her usage every day. Her electric usage went from an average 30 kilowatt hours a day to 75 kilowatt hours a day. And been doing that consecutively for the last 4 days, and she wants to know what's going on. So I talked to the lady, and I said, let me come out to your house. I went straight out to her house, and sure enough, I got there, she came to the door, she had this little sprawl notebook, and she had every reading for every day for life. I mean, this thing was thick. I mean, June 1st, 1983, this is my reading day, this is how much I used the day before. And sure enough, she was averaging about 30, 35 kilowatt hours a day. Except for the last 4 days, she used like 75, 80 kilowatt hours a day. She says, man, I don't know what's going on. So I'm here to help her figure out what's going on. The first thing I think of is, well, it's wintertime, apparently her strip heat's come on, or her heat pump's not doing its deal anymore. So I went over to the thermostat to make sure the emergency light was not on. If you ever go over your thermostat, you see a little emergency light on, that means your strip heat's coming on, and it's costing should never come on if it's working properly unless it's 5 below zero outside. So I go over and it's working properly, and I thought, man, what is this? I said, no, this is working fine, and I don't see anything going on here. So my light went off in my head, and I said, I know what it is. So I went down to her water meter, and went in her water meter. I'm gonna give you this as well. And I said, I'm gonna see if she's got a water leak. So I went down to her water meter. Says you have to check the leaks here. And I saw her testing moving on her water meter. But you're testing, if you open up this little clamping on water right in here side here, you're gonna see this is what a water meter looks like. I went down to her meter, and this little triangle was moving. Now, the only time this little triangle moves is when water's passing through the meter. And when you're not using water, it should be setting still. So I went down to her water, and the little triangle was flying. So then she had a water leak. What that tells me is, if she's got a water leak and her electric bill high, she's got a hot water heater or a water heater tank that's went bad, and it's leaking the water, and it's running 24 hours a day. I said, ma'am, where's your water meter located? She's located in the crawl space. So that's a place you never see it. You know, it's out of the way, out of my line of sight, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough, her water heater had busted around the bottom. It had rotted over a period of time being down the crawl space. It was leaking water, so her water heater's running 24 hours a day. Here is because she ran her meter on a daily basis, she solved this problem within 5 days. So when she got her electric bill, it was not affected. When she got her water bill, it was not affected because she solved the problem immediately. Now, if she had waited, she had not been reading her meter on a daily basis. She waited until she got her bill. She received a real high bill, say for $100 extra for electric part for heating, running this water heater. She'd have had $100 extra on her water bill because of the high water bill, the leak. She'd have had $200. Man, I can't come up with this money, but because she solved it instantly, she had no difference in her bill. So I can't stress enough the importance of reading your electric meter on a daily basis. If not that, this is something else. I have young couples come to my office all the time, and I really have compassion for these kids. They'll come to my office, the man will be 19 and the girl, she'll be 17. They'll have a little kid, they've had to get married because of pregnancy. And now they're living in an apartment and their bill's $200 and they're both working at Walmart and they can't pay their $200 electric bill. I always tell them, I says, listen, maybe once a day is too much to read your electric bill. Maybe one day is too much. I says, learn to read your meter every Friday. They say, why? I said, if you'll read your meter every Friday, and when you get your bill, let's say this week your reading is 5, 9, 6, 7, 8, and you read it the next week and it's 6, 0, 125. I said, subtract that. Let's just say, for instance, it's 200. I know that's not the difference. Just to say it's 200. I said, take that 200 kilowatt hours, multiply it by 10 cents. And let's say 10 cents times 200, that's going to be $20, which that's real low, but we're just using this as an example. I said, take that $20, put it in an envelope. Do the same thing next week. Take a reading, subtract it, figure out how much you used, multiply by 10 cents, put it in an envelope. I said, when your bill comes due, you've already got the money set aside to pay for it. You don't have late charges, you don't have late fees, you don't have disconnect charges, you don't have to worry if your power's going to be cut off. You've already got the money set aside, and when you're setting it aside every week out of your paycheck, $20, it's no big deal. But when you get your paycheck's $259 and your electric bill's $225, you're like, I have no money to eat, I have no money for gas, I can't do anything, and you expect me to live, and you're going to charge me this for my electric bill. But if you do it on a weekly basis, it makes, and these people in my office, they're just thinking behind me, oh, you saved my life, and I'm like, I wish I could do it to everybody, but I can't. But if I can ever get them to realize that, oh man, they're just miles ahead. Another thing it will do, if you learn to read on a daily basis, it will show you how your life habits affect your usage. It'll show you how the weather affects the usage. Like let's say, you're reading your meter like this lady did. You're reading every day. You're averaging 30, 35, 30, 32, 30, 33, and all of a sudden you jump to 65. And you go like, wait a minute. Last 24 hours I used 65 kilowatt hours. What was different? Oh yeah. Bill and Sue came over last night, and we cooked chili on the stove, and I washed clothes, and we sit at midnight watching TV, and we played poker, and so that's the difference between this last 24 hours versus the other days, because you did all this extra activity that you hadn't been doing days before. So your eyes really open up. Your eyes really open up about your utility usage when you do that. And real quickly, as I said on the water, saving both money on electric and water. So just want to touch base on you real quick. Like I said, it pays ever so often just to go down to your water meter. They may do once a month, once every couple months. Just go in there and make sure that hand's not moving. If you're not using any water, that little test head should be sitting still. And if there's any usage at all, that hand's going to be moving. Now, the only time that hand will not be moving is if you have a commode leak. Let's look at this. I'm going to draw you another absurd picture here. Not that I look at this all the time, know how to draw one, but I'm probably in there enough to know how to draw this. There's your commode. Now what'll happen is over a period of years, you got a rubber flap in here that'll wear out. And the rubber flap will start letting water to pass through. So what'll happen, water will slowly drain into here, water will slowly go down through the system, and as it slowly drains down, eventually this will get down low enough to where the culvert will fill back up. So maybe every 30 minutes, fill up. So the only time you'd see your hand move on that dial, on that meter, is when it's calling for it to fill up, and the other 27 minutes it's not turning. You say, well, that's no big deal. Well, let me tell you how big a deal this is. I had an elderly lady come to my office 2 years ago, probably 79, 80 years old. I'm guessing someone's in that age, lived alone. Bless her heart, felt real sorry for her. She had a $300 water bill, $300-something water bill. Swore me down she did not have a leak. I can't pay this $300. I draw Social Security, blah, 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 and I just can't pay a $300 water bill. I said, man, you got a leak somewhere. I don't have no leaks. I don't have no leaks. I said, ma'am, well, calm down. I gave her some dye tablets. And this is what you do. You take these dye tablets and you color the water in the back of the tank. And then let it sit for 30 minutes. Now, you don't have to have dye tablets. You can use food color. You use food color, it's the same thing. Just take food color and color the water in the back of your tank. Let it sit for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, go in there and look. If this water has the same color as this up here, your rubber flaps wore out. And that's what it did. I gave her the dye tablet. She went home. She came back in the next day. She apologized because she said, I'm sorry. She said, I had a commode leak. It ran $300-something for water from my commode. So you have a very small leak and use a very large amount of water. And in today's society, I'm just like you. I live on a budget, and boy, I mean, $300 could throw my budget through the roof. And I'd be here on the street, we'll work for water for my commode or something. But seriously, I mean, just things like that can really affect your bill and really get you off balance on your budget and throw you for a loop. And man, here's my anniversary coming up, and we spent all my money on a water bill because I had a commode leak. Like just yesterday, I had a lady call in. She said, we've been gone 20 days out this month, this billing cycle, because my child had her first grandchild. We went to go see the baby being born, blah, blah, blah. And she says, I've come back in, and my water bill's $125, and it's never been $125. I told her how to do the dye test. She called me back an hour later. She said, yeah, I got a commode upstairs leaking. She said, we'll fix it. And I said, okay, good. So, I mean, so that happens. And more than I like to see, but it does happen. It uses a lot of water. So,
I put in a new Kohler, low water usage toilet, and I was extremely impressed with the technology on that. Just hit it. It wasn't just using less water, it redesigned the whole thing.
I was in a hotel 2 weeks ago. When you flushed the commode, you thought the whole world was coming in. I don't know if it's a half gallon, I don't know if it's a half gallon commode, what is it? Boom! You're just like, man, what is this thing that's going to eat me alive?
Was that one that had air compressor on it?
Yeah, it had an air compressor on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you seen one of those?
Wow.
Oh, man, you think the whole world. Yeah, it's like, oh, man, they're going to take up a fly.
One of the things about energy efficiency all the way around is the bottom line is awareness.
Yes.
If you can make people aware, then they start, thinking and their brain starts working. We started a program in December called Pay My Way. And what it basically is people prepay for their electricity, okay? And when, they put $100 on their electricity account, and they use off that $100, and when they get below $25, it calls them or email, contacts them in some way, usually a phone call. Makes them aware of, so people that are on a weekly income, okay, I've got $25 left. It took me 2 weeks to use the $75, so what can I cut off? What can I stop doing? What, can I raise my thermostat? So it really makes them aware. And we have people that actually are happy with their power being disconnected, 2 or 3 days before payday. People are living nickel to nickel. And it's made us, we really didn't think that would be an energy efficiency tool, but it makes people aware of how much energy they're really using. It's kind of like a cell phone. We've got those, the data minutes on your cell phone, and we've got all the data minutes we can use. Well, our kids came, and 2 of them were on videos, on the web videos. We get this message, you've now used 90% of your data minutes on your phone. It's the same, so I think, turn that off, It's the same thing except with electricity, and it's really becoming an energy efficiency tool. And like you said, they don't get the late fees, they don't get the reconnect fees. It's just it's been a great tool.
Something that Patty and I both are doing, or a couple of our companies are doing, are starting to do AMI meters. The neat thing about an AMI meter, it's easy to read. It's simple. It's just like looking at a digital clock or a digital watch. You just write down the numbers. But you're going to see 3 different sets of numbers flash across that screen. You're going to see one set of numbers looks like all 8s, and that's what that's doing. That's checking the LED lights on that screen. So you can see all 8s. That's not that you used 88888. That's just you're checking all your LED lights on the screen. The second set of numbers is going to be a routing number. That's how that's routed back to us, so we can get that reading for you. And the number you're going to be looking for is the one that says KWH behind it. It's going to look just like that. You're going to have a set of numbers. It's going to have KWH at the end. That's the reading you're going to be reading. It's your KWH reading. That's your kilowatt hour reading. That's one you want to read on a daily basis. And that's not covered in that brochure I gave you. That brochure tells you how to read the regular other 2 types of meters. We've had that for years. But thank goodness those meters are no longer going to be there, and it's all going to be easy to read. You just go out and find the reading that says KWH. That's your reading. So it makes reading a whole lot simpler, a whole lot quicker, and makes it a whole lot easier to keep up with that way with the new AMI meters. So, you've had all your meters in for how long now?
We have all our residential meters in, and we're about 80% of our commercials. So
You've had your residential at what, 2 or 3 years?
we finished last year. It had to do with the substation equipment. We had to buy some new substation equipment to read them. So I think the meters were there. We just couldn't read them.
I think we're about 85% done with ours. We're getting close. We're getting very close to finishing up ours as well. So, and so far nobody's died.
Oh, not that I know of.
So AMI matters are good. So, all right. Well, man, we just about made 2 hours, Patty.
We sure did.
We didn't think we could do it, but we just about made 2 hours.
One thing I'm glad you mentioned it, Patty, is awareness, that's, just paying attention to what's going on. And Tracy will probably talk a little more about this, but Don and the building codes every time is with you. Builders and stuff to aware of what's going on, and you got some more information what was in a future workshop that we're going into more depth on that, also the big articles here in the building business. Existing homes, new homes, the principles are pretty much the same. Just when it's new, there are things you can do that you can't do after the house.
Yeah.
Like with those walls.
Yeah.
Well, in talking too, I remember this when you was talking a while ago about something Doug Rice said a long time ago. You take a jet airplane, when it's flying up there where the temperature's what, 60 below, or you think, now how do they keep that airplane warm when it's 60 below up there where they're flying, and that wall of that airplane's only that thick? It's because they have that airplanes are airtight, and there's no air getting in, no air getting out. They're able to fly very comfortably at 60 below degree air. And you can make your house airtight, and you can make it real efficient. But that's, just depends on how much work you want to put into it, how much you want to do it, how far you want to go, and how much money you want to spend. That's, but like she showed a minute ago, there's tons of stuff you can do for dollars. You can take extra $20 a week and buy some coffee and some foam and just start small. And even in insulating, like if you want to insulate your basement, you don't have to do it all at one time. Go to Lowe's and buy a roll of fiberglass insulation for $25, and do how much that'll go. And then when you get paid again next week, do another roll. Do it. You don't have to do it all at one time. Just do a little bit as you go. Talking about plastic on the ground. If I had an older house, that'd be the first thing I would do is put plastic on the ground. And the reason being is I've given this illustration a long time ago. I love this illustration. If it's cold outside, if it's 30 degrees, and you give me a coat and put on, I'm gonna be warm. Now, if you take that coat and you dip it in water, and then if you put on this wet coat, you'll stay warm. And I'm gonna freeze to death because that coat is wet. Well, see, you got all this moisture coming up out of the ground, it goes inside the home, makes your house wet, and it doesn't hold heat anymore because it's damp. And so if you get that dampness out of your house by putting that vapor grade on, it's real cheap, that's gonna help you save right there because it's drying out your house. And another thing, I love what you said a while ago, and I can talk all day long, I hate this, but comfort level is the biggest thing you're going to see when you do this stuff. And you may not see your bill drop in half, because I have people call me all the time and they'll say, man, they insulated my attic last year, and my bill, I only saved $5. Yeah, you saved $5. You're going to save $5 for the rest of your life. So what's $5 times 50 years of your life? That's 200, however much that is. And then I said, look at your comfort level. Oh yeah, it's a lot more better in my house. I don't feel as cold anymore. I say you're paying for comfort too, but you're saving this the rest of your life with just $5. So some of this stuff ain't gonna cut your bill in half. Like I get calls all the time. I can't believe this. I replaced every bulb in my house with fluorescent bulbs, and I didn't save $1. Well, you can't. It's probably saving you, say 10 cents a light bulb. If you got 10 light bulbs, that's $1. That's $1 a month that's going to save your electric bill. Yes, you're saving money. You're saving money the rest of your life, but it's not cutting your bill in half because all you did was replace your light bulbs.
Well, if you replace a light bulb and you never use the bulb.
Yeah. Now, I put in 5 bulbs upstairs. We're never up there. We're in there.
One more thing, the so-called vampire connections, when you've got things plugged in that you're not using, does that really make that much of a difference?
It's going to save you pennies. It's going to save you pennies. And I get that same. I can't believe it. I plugged everything in my house last month and didn't use it, and my bill didn't drop a bit. I said, well, it may have dropped 25 cents, or it may have dropped 30 cents, but you don't see that 30 cents. But that's 30 cents you're saving. If you look at it over the rest of your entire life, you may save $30. But that kills me. And I'm glad you brought that up. So many of these things, people think, oh, I'll cut my bill in half and put these things behind my electric switch. The little insulating thing behind you. Yes, you're going to save money, but you're not going to cut your bill in half. Because that little outlet there with that little piece of foam back there is not going to cut your bill in half. It's going to save you some, but not.
And it may save you a lot on comfort.
Yes.
If your chair is right behind this thing. Wow, you really notice it. Wow, it's warmer in here. Well, it may not be warmer, it's just more comfortable.
Yeah, people have $1 million homes and they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The other thing on the old houses, the cellulose guys can insulate those walls. They just drill a plug hole and drill it
Right.
down.
Yeah, they can. Yep, that's going back and carrying all the hose to put in your sheetrock and all that, yeah.
Well, I go from the outside too.
Yeah.
Either
Yeah, what they'll do on that is let's say this is your cavity, and let's say you've got some port crossbars in there, something like that. They'll cut a hole here. They'll take a fishing rod with a weight on it, fishing string, and they'll go down. It drops 2 foot, so they'll fill it here, and they'll go in here and they'll drill another hole, and they'll fill this up, and they'll put the string in there first, see how far it drops. And they may drop all the way to the bottom, and fill it all the way up. But good to have those cross things. I don't know what they call those things. But you can do that, but. But just like my friend Joe over in Nashville, I said his house is over 100 years old. He had 0 attic insulation. Matter of fact, some of his wires was a little bother too. It was so old. And but he saw, because he went from 0 to attic insulation. That's just like being outside with no shirt on at all. It's 20 degrees outside and you put even a coat on. You can tell the big difference. But if I walk outside and I've already got a thin jacket on, you give me a bigger coat. Yeah, it's going to help, but I'm not going to feel that much more because I already had a jacket on to begin with. And like my attic at my house was built back in '91. My attic had like an R28 or something in it. I went and had mine blow with cellulose on top of it because I'm a fan of cellulose. Had about 3 inches blow on top of what I already had. Man, it made a big difference in the comfort level, and it also saved me a little bit on my bill, not a lot, but it did save me a couple of dollars. So, and that's saving it also the rest of my life. So. All right, Patty, you did a great job.
So did you. It's a mutual admiration society.
So thank you for inviting us today, and thank everybody for coming.
Sorry you got here late, you missed a lot of stuff.
I'd like to issue a challenge to each of us, because we have another session coming up on Thursday, September the 6th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's in classrooms on this hallway, 113. And it's going to be Jeff Christian, who's coming up from Knoxville. He does amazing things in building science. We have Scott Wright, some of you might know, who's a local builder in the community. He also does the phone installation. And then we have Tom Calloway, who does the solar panels. So come out on that night, 6 p.m., for Sustainable Home Construction Energy Saving Measures. So it's going to be another wonderful learning opportunity, and that's the theme. If you haven't already picked up on day one, as we launch this series, the theme is learning. How can you learn to do things differently that will make a huge difference? The little things that are making a huge difference in the world, in terms of our planet, in terms of our own home spaces, and businesses. We want business owners to come out, because there are things they can be doing too that will make a huge difference in their businesses. So it's about learning. What are those things we don't know that we could be doing that will make a difference? And so I'm challenging each of you, I'm challenging myself. Each of us needs to invite 5 people, and now 5 people come. And if it's not the one, maybe Thursday evening, the time is not good for them. I know the Healthy Women's Conference going on and some other things. If that time's not good, over the course of this series, it goes until September the 25th currently, although I'm going to talk with both David and Patty about coming back, because our attendance was not very good today. Maybe they'll come back for us in October and do a repeat, because this information is stuff that people need to be here and need to hear. So please come back and challenge, share the word. We got a whole series coming up. Soon you'll see it widely advertised on our website and other venues and the newspapers and all of those things, the radio. We want people here, because this information is too good for us not to share. So thank you for coming out.
What's the date on this next one?
The date is September the 6th. It's a Thursday, and it starts at 6 p.m. We'll look forward to seeing you all here. Thanks for coming out today. And again, Patty and David, you were amazing. That information. I've got notes on my pages of notes.
Just don't tell Tom Calloway what I said about solar.
Okay. I'll keep that between us. And I'll be contacting you about getting a home inspection because we're on volunteer.
Good.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Good job. I did not know that about my water meter. Give me one of those water. No, I didn't. I don't know anything about water.
There you go.
You move over there a little bit. So
Yes.
You want to stand and sit?
Looks like we're behind our microphones that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna, you gave me a copy of all the workshops to come, so I'm gonna include that. So everybody will know.
Okay.
We got this one so late, so I don't
Yeah.
know if,
Plus, it's, right before Labor Day, and,
that's true, that's true.
This thing right here, if it's turning, you're using water. I did not know. I
Wait.
learned something today.
Well, I was thinking just now, I know my wife's got food dye in the kitchen. I'm gonna go home and do it.
Yeah. That's a great thing. Great thing.
Well, Patty, I would love to do this again.
Yes, we'll do it again. I told her just not. She was talking about the last weekend in September. I mean, the last week in
Right.
September. That's the week for our annual meeting, and I'm just. It's like, hey, how are you? Good to see you.
I enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
They sure do. They sure do. Just call them, tell them you want an in-home energy evaluation. And I don't know exactly how they do theirs. Some distributors charge for the evaluation on the front end. We don't. Either one of us charge at all. And then if you do it, then they give it back to you or something. So I just call them and ask them. Yeah,
just about every distributor in the valley does it. Because, you know,
Old house,
yeah.
I can
Oh,
tell,
yeah.
especially in the wintertime, I get so cold. Seeing where the windows crack, and I'm wondering, what do I need to do?
Caulk. Yep, caulk it. Don't let them talk you into new windows just for the energy efficiency.
Evidently, when we moved to the house, the previous owners said that they replaced all of it. Can I
Well, they might
please?
have, but they forgot. Yeah, the windows are fine. It's the space around them that's, you know.
Nice keychain, and we hope you'll carry it proudly.
Depends on where the,
And
like,
this is a new
like
cool
ours
little
are
gadget. We
vinyl,
just
so it's
got
kind of,
these.
they've got that cap on the outside, so it's kind of hard, you know, like there's siding that goes like this, so it's kind of hard to get around it. So either inside or outside, just wherever you can get into, you know, to seal that hole
Isn't that cool?
around it. And caulk's better for windows. That foam stuff is better for like under the seal because it expands. You know, you just put a little bit in there.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
Just have so much
It's cool to
energy,
watch.
and I
But
loved
wear
your
gloves. I made that
illustrations. You break
mistake.
it on down for us.
It looked
That
like I was
really
in.
helpful.
Well, my
I
sister
mean, it
works
just,
here, Vivian Rapier.
just. I mean, it was just.
I love it, yeah.
It was
My
awful,
husband-
and it won't. It just wore off. You know, I couldn't do anything. So yeah, wear gloves.
I will.
Oh yeah, dummy, like me, dummy. I can do this without gloves. It didn't work out very well. But yeah, EPB does that too, and they've got several in-house evaluators. We do contracted evaluators, which ours are fine, but EPB has, I don't know, 8 or 10 in-house evaluators. Yeah.
And would you be willing, Patty had already said she would be willing to come back in October. Would you be willing to come
I don't
sometime?
think you can't come in October, can you?
I can come after the first week in October.
I can come if you can just send me the dates.
I'll
check my
email
calendar.
you, because if we can go ahead and nail it, I was telling Patty, marketing's at a place where they can probably add that date on to the PR that they're doing.
How many did you need to do?
Let me have maybe 10. And Miss Patty, we have just some small tokens of appreciation from the college.
Thank you.
Some hand
Okay,
sanitizer.
great, thank you.
And this is a real nice keychain that we
Oh,
hope
yeah.
you'll carry
Very
proudly.
good, thank you.
And this is a new snazzy little thing. We just got these. This little piece is a flashlight, a can opener, and a little pocket knife. Isn't that a nice little snazzy
Yes, that
gadget?
is. I'll use that for sure.
Good, good.
There's the in-home evaluation. That's the
Thank you.
info sheet, and that's just a little brochure that tells
I was
you know,
hoping maybe some
things that
classes
are
would have their kids come in here just,
eligible. And I had, here's a contractor list too. I just happened to bring them in case somebody was asking.
It's me.
Yep.
We've been talking about it. We need to get it done. Do we, who do we, no.
Yeah.
Call that number?
Call
Okay.
it. It's in my office. Pages
Okay.
in my office, or
Okay.
you can call my number.
Okay, thank
And there's the
you.
contractor list, which you can kind of look over it and see. You
Okay.
know, if there's somebody you, of course, you got to find out what you need done first. But how old's your house?
It's not very old. It's, I want to say, it's 2000 something, I think is when it was built.
Just old enough, you know.
Old
that's the-
enough, we got some, I know we have some issues.
That's the boom times where they were slapping up those houses right and left, and, you know, John ran into one in Fairfield Glade, was it you? That, you know, the guy was saying, it's cold in this house, and he went up, and they had not insulated a thing in the attic.
Here in Cleveland.
Oh, no.
Was it in Cleveland?
Down the south end over in Farming.
Oh, we're in the south
And,
end,
yeah,
right,
it was so strange, they'd done the knee walls, but you go up and it's not here.
I think
It
they
was a
just
guy-
forgot.
They just forgot. They done the knee walls because they did that, early, and then they want everybody attention before they blow it in. So it's so funny. I met the guy there at lunch his house, and I got there right. I said, I look up there, and first I'm thinking, are there two ceilings? Is there some trick here? So he just finished lunch. He comes over. He's looking at the things. What'd you find, John? I said, just climb up there. It's Fred. His name's Fred. His wife's name's Frederica. So I never forget. I said, Fred, climb the ladder. I should look at this stuff. Well, I don't know what I'm looking at. Well, just climb these. He gets my lights. What am I looking for? I said, look at your insulation. And then it's about 5 seconds off here. Holy Moses!
No insulation.
No insulation. You know what was so funny about that? When we went back, she was there with her grandchild. And I said, Frederica, can you tell the difference in her house? He said, here's the difference in my house. He said, before,
She said, we go outside and play with my granddaughter. She said, well, the other day, she said, we started to go out and play in the middle of the day. Said, it was hot outside. Before we always knew it was hot because it was hot inside. It was hot outside. She said, but it was nice and cool in the house. We thought, how did it get so hot here? But they were just heating the neighborhood. But they just forgot to ever come back. The girl forgot to call the guy. But yeah, you'll still see some weird, you've probably seen the weird stuff.
Strange things.
Sometimes we compare notes about strange things we've seen.
I just wish I'd kept a diary on
I
this.
started to say-
Especially when I did the in-house stuff like you do, I give anybody keep a diary.
Y'all need to write a book.
Before we went other directions.
Because so many stories I've forgotten, but I'd love to remember some of those.
We have another evaluator that, he's actually an IT person, and he started following Ralph around, and he realized he loved this work. So, he's gotten into it.
They went through the training.
Yeah, went through the training, got certified and all that stuff. So he is the funniest storyteller in the world. And he talks about going to see a retired Methodist preacher. He says he's like 90 years old, nothing really to do. He said, after I chewed my arm off, got away from him.
He was ready to preach, that's what he's done.
And then he went to the Addams family house, and he's got all kinds of stories. Funny.
There's some strange stuff. Some you hardly can share.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was anybody free for lunch? I thought I'd go buy lunch if anybody's available.
I'd love to do it again, Pat. You guys like to go? Yeah, so let's go.